So previously in SEO, or in my slide shares, we've gone through how to turn on Ceph URLs, use aliases, enter metadata, use third-party components, what the black hat SEO techniques are and why to avoid them. And I've just uploaded those this morning, finally, after 3 years, to my SlideShare page, which is slideshare.net/Partick. So if you go there, you can see the previous presentations from 2009, 2010. SEF and SEO is important because without it, you don't end up on Google, you don't end up on page 1 of Google, you don't end up on position 1 of Google. So this is a vision map, which is basically a heat map of where people look when they're looking at a Google results page. And you can see that all the traffic there goes to the top left-hand side of the screen, and that's where position 1 sits. You can see that people dart across and look at the ads partially, but most of the traffic is directed to that top left-hand corner. So you need to really make your site appear there for various keywords to make your site perform. You'll probably find that even though everyone looks at that top left, that you can see that that red bit is where they look down as such, and that's quite often because they're avoiding looking at the ads. Who regularly looks at their Google Analytics, or sorry, who uses Google Analytics? Who regularly looks at the results? And who generally finds that most of the traffic is organic Google? Good. And how many people use AdWords? And how much of your traffic, like less than 10%, is paid, or it depends on, I guess it depends on your product. Depends on the site as well, yeah. So I personally don't use AdWords to advertise sites. I generally try and get my clients up there organically, and if they did have an AdWords budget, for a couple of the sites it'd be quite a phenomenal budget to try and achieve everything that they want it to do. So we do rely on organic a lot. So this is how you go about turning on your Ceph URLs in 1.5, but not many people are using 1.5 now, so I'll jump it up to 2.5, and that looks something like the first screen did, but slightly different. The icon changed for global configuration. You still go into global configuration and then just turn on your search engine friendly URLs, and that activates the Ceph URLs, and that'll give you an URL that will contain index PHP, as you can see down here. That's not as clean as it can be, and so the next step is normally to rename your htaccess.txt file that'll be in the root folder of your Joomla site to .htaccess. And obviously that works on Apache servers, but not as well on some other server technology. So if you're in a 2IS environment, that won't work. You then need to go back into your SEO settings and turn on use URL rewriting, and that will turn on the htaccess file and then map the cleaner URLs, which will then be missing the index PHP. You can then also go in and you can add a suffix to the URLs. Now there's mixed reasons for doing that. If you've got different types of page content, that can mean that it'll identify the HTML files as HTML, feed files as a feed, and there's a couple of other extensions that will be added to the file. I don't tend to turn that on, but also I'm using a different extension for my SEO, which I'll go into in a minute. So obviously there's been not much has actually changed, but there is a few things to note with going from 2.5 to 3. The big one is that Joomla 3.0 turns on Ceph by default. So when you do your installation, it will automatically switch on search engine friendly URLs and be activated out of the box. And so that's a shot of the global settings there, and you can see that it's set to yes. So the only thing you really need to do once you've done your installation, yes, Renee?
I noticed there was an option there to click no for Ceph URLs. Is there any reason why someone would want to click no?
If you're in the process of testing a site or you've got some Ceph problem, that's probably the easiest way to, if you turn it off temporarily, you'll be able to see what the non-Ceph URL is and then turn it back on. So that's where you'll do that to disable things. and some other extensions that you might use. You might want to turn off the default Joomla Ceph and use the extension Ceph just on its own. So the slider now obviously changed look with Bootstrap, and so you turn on use URL rewriting. And it was a new feature in 2.5 as well, and is still around in 3. You can actually add your site name to the start or the end of your page title, which can be handy if your site name's got keywords that people are going to look for. And then I'd recommend putting it at the end of the title. And they recommend that titles be around 10 words and 70 characters. And that length is actually the length of the title as it appears on the Google search result. And so anything over the 70 characters turns into the ... at the end of the line. And so people won't see that. So if you can keep your core part of your title within that 70 characters, that means that that'll show up as the title. So how the Ceph URLs are generated is by the alias tag, and in most cases the alias tag is automatically generated unless you specify otherwise. So as soon as you save an article or other piece of content, it will transfer that value, strip it of any punctuation characters that will cause problems, and make a clean alias. And so if you want to change the alias to then change the what the URL looks like, you can do that just by manually editing the alias. So the automatically generated aliases can actually be quite long if your title of your content's quite long. And so going back and editing to make them shorter, which will give you a shorter URL, can sometimes be a good idea. Another thing I tend to do is put conversational blog posts with a interesting actual title, but then put the keywords for what the blog's about into the alias to create the URL. So by making the URLs human friendly, they're also going to be search engine friendly. And so the more, or the cleaner they are, and search engine friendly basically means taking out the options and the things that make it a dynamic URL, so question marks and ampersands in the URL will tell Google that this page isn't a static page, it's actually dynamically generated. Going to a cleaner Ceph URL takes those out, and then it means that that URL is just the clean.
How much does it matter to Google if the keywords in the alias are reflected in the article itself?
It certainly helps to have that to be interrelated. So your keywords should end up in your, ideally in your URL, your page title, your meta description, and your body text. Also your alt tags on your images and title tags on links. Yep. I haven't looked into it. We've just done some work with Saxton, who the balls are for, about how to make that limit, or sorry, how to increase the keyword density as such. And so we actually changed particular pages to now have the keyword about that category of speakers have all of the alt tags and the title tags for the links have the keyword for that category in that page, and that's actually increased the profile on those pages by increasing, I think the biggest page has got 160 speakers listed on it, and so you know, if that was business speakers, that's business speakers 160 times and related to the name of the speaker. It does. So you can actually have translated URLs with SH404 Ceph, and so then it'll put the language code into the URL, and then It can be both, yeah. And you could even put the alias to have contact us and the Greek in the same to make it. I guess it depends on what your target audience is. It's probably worth me interested in Matthias. What's your thoughts on that from a German perspective?
Because it's only German,
Right.
but it's very important. Well, the association of everything that was asked before is extremely important. So we are now ending up with whatever Melbourne and German language is associated, we get #1 hits because all the content is in German language. But we are closely related with all the content links, Wikipedia, everything. So that gives us the hits. On a multi-language site, I believe you just need to see. It's all the parameters. Where's your web host? What is your content? All this sort of plays a role. And if you have a single page in Greek, probably doesn't matter. But I would probably go for all the language declarations to make sure it's consistent for each page. So then there's a good chance that individual pages that involve the majority of pages in the language. Yeah, that's the way. It's a bit more complex.
Meta descriptions are critical to the success of SEO nowadays. So where I was saying that the title for your page comes up as the search engine result link, the meta description is in most cases going to be what comes up as the snippet that appears in the search engine result. The alternative to that is where you've got context sensitive searches where if you're searching for a Joomla error message, the snippet will actually be the section of the page that contains that particular text, because that's not likely to be stuck in anybody's meta descriptions. No?
I heard it talked by Andrew Eddy about a year ago. He was talking about this metadata, and he was saying that the meta description is more important to Google now than the meta words.
Yeah, meta keywords, yep. Yep. So the keywords are far less important. They're not actually indexed by Google. They're only indexed by some older search engines or ones that haven't developed it. What was happening was that people would stack their keywords into the site and stack it with words that weren't actually related to the site, because the algorithm at the time would actually look at the keywords and rank on that. So Google worked out people were doing that and then stripped that out of the algorithm, and that's been probably a couple of years now that hasn't been in there. One of the reasons the feature's still in Joomla is that the Joomla search itself looks at the meta keywords and will include that in the search results. So one way to use that is that if you've got keywords that can often be misspelt, so if you want the English and the US spelling of organised and things like that, the Z's and the S's, Harvard with the O's and the U's, things like that. You can put the misspellings into your Joomla meta keywords field, and then when someone misspells it for the search, it will find the incorrect version and show the result. But when the page displays, it's showing the spelling that you've got in the article. If they just put the correct spelling in, it would find it in the article and return that as a result. Yes. Yeah. So we've quite often, when I've got clients that are concentrating on blogging, we put in the first 3 lines of the article as the meta description if they haven't already grabbed it. Yeah. And there's a couple of extensions I think that do something similar to that to grab meta descriptions automatically. But you should really make that part of your content creation. So where Joomla makes only the article title and the body of the article as required fields, meta description should become one of your required fields to put that in. Sure. I'll have to look into which one it was. Yep, I'm about to show you something in a second which will let you put meta description in for all your pages at once. And that's part of SH404 SEO. Well, one of the things that Joomla does is now with 3.0, one of the questions that you're asked during the installation process, so that's how it's been ranked up a little bit higher, is what your site-wide meta description is. So if you put something in when you install your site to say what the site's about, that is the fallback meta description. So as long as you've thought about that paragraph to say what your site's about, that will at least be on every page. So you can go and update that in the global configuration. So that's the first place that you really need to make sure you've at least got that filled in. And they've actually blanked it now. So in 1.5 and I think 1.0, the default value was Joomla content management system got dropped into both the keywords and the description field. So that was another way that people could tell that you had a Joomla site because you hadn't actually updated your metadata. So by tidying that up now, and from 3.0 onwards that'll be a default thing, that certainly makes it easier. The new layout of the content on 3, where you've got the tabs instead of the sliders down the side, already makes it easier to say, don't forget to do your metadata. All you've got to do is say, fill out your item ID, check your publishing dates. Can't remember what the third tab is at the moment, and the fourth tab's the metadata. And so just get your users putting through a checklist on all those items, and you'll find that they then put in their metadata. And it's amazing how easy it is once you've got all the things in a checklist done to lift that up. So the workshop that I did on Thursday, basically what we did was write up all the things we were going to cover to create an SEO checklist, and over 6 hours we went through all of that. And what I've got to do now as part of that is create a whole heap of online tutorials that will then be available for people to look at and go through everything you need to do from installing your 3.0 site through to optimising and monitoring your metadata. Sorry, monitoring your SEO performance, I should say. So then you've got various third-party extensions. I'll start racing through this so we can get to the demos. There's a number out there, SH404 Ceph, RSSEO. Personally, I use SH404 Ceph, and I have a tendency now with Joomla, which some people say is a bit narrow-sighted at times. I've found very good extensions that do a job very well or suitably adequately, and I've stuck with the one that I've then selected. So even though other better ones might come out over time, I'll have focused my energies on learning a particular one, and I'll stick with that one until it is deceased pretty much and become, ideally, a bit of an expert on that particular one. So SH404 Ceph is my concentrated effort. So if you've got any questions on other ones, you'll probably need to go to their support sites. But if you've got questions on SH404 Ceph, I can help you out there. So you should always install XMap or another dynamic Google sitemap generator, and then submit those sitemaps to Google Webmaster Tools, so that then your site will be able to be indexed. If you've got a site, if you have a sitemap, then Google at least has a starting point to go and find all the pages on your site, even if those pages aren't linked up through your menu items and things like that. So without that, Saxton's site, for example, has over 2,000 links, and there's a number of them that wouldn't have even been seen by Google because they're for obscure people that no one really ever searches for. But Google knows that they're there now because of our sitemap. Yep. So with XMap, it's a dynamic sitemap, and so when you make a change to the site, it automatically updates the sitemap, and the Webmaster Tools, once you've submitted it to Webmaster Tools, it will go and retrieve it on a regular cycle, so you don't have to actually resubmit it. Another tip is in your robots text file, you can actually put a line that says sitemap and then the URL for the sitemap. And what that will do is that if other search engines, such as Bing and Yahoo and other ones that will actually read it, they'll actually go and find that sitemap file and use that as their sitemap without you having to submit it to their search engine. And that's proved quite handy for us as well. Max, were you stretching or you had a question? No, stretching. And always check out what the latest things on extensions.joomla.org are, because there's always new things coming out. People think they can do something better, and there'll be a whole heap of metadata tools in there that I've heard of that will do different things. And that's where I think the one that does the automatic meta descriptions is located. But do your homework on them before you install them to make sure that they're not doing something else. There was a particular one that had a black hat SEO technique in it in the free version, and so that one instantly got on my list of ones not to use. So once you've got all that, you'll find that most of your SCF is working, but some of the components will generally have something peculiar to them. It's been getting better over recent years because it's become obviously a critical part. K2, for example, does it very well. In fact, most of the extensions that I regularly use have an SEF component. But you've just got to be careful. If you're using SH404 Ceph, you can basically just roll back to using the regular Joomla router, or you can turn it off for that extension as well. And SH404 Ceph has its own category on the JED for finding compatible plugins. Sorry? Yes, that's the old name for Kanina, yes. I didn't quite get to these slides to finish updating. The Joomla non-Joomla site, if you don't have your site as just the one URL, then Google actually sees it as two URLs, so two separate websites, and so some of your results can actually be split. So there is a way to change that. You add these sort of lines to your rewrite engine. I won't go too much into that. You can download the slides and see how to do that. And you can also set which one is your preferred URL in Google Webmaster Tools. Now, of course, sometimes marketing materials go out of date, and those balls are actually 3 brands old for Saxton, which is why the group URL currently brings up a 404 page. So the easiest way to go in and fix that is that in the back end of the site, you go to 404. So if you've got Ceph 404 installed, then it's going to record all the 404 error messages, so then you can go through, and if they need to be fixed, you can redirect them. So in this case, we just pick the group URL, and then we say, okay, where do we want to go? It's thinking that these are compatible because they're a closely named one, but in this case, we don't want it to go to /groups. I actually want to send it to the About Us page. And so then you just click on the About Us page, and the group's URL now will disappear from this list when it refreshes. And now if I go back and I refresh group, no, that's through SH404 Ceph. Yeah. It writes the rule to the database of the redirection table. And so now it goes to the About Us page, and so anyone that would type in that URL will now get the correct URL. So, yes. So this, try again, Chris. Yeah, no, that's right. So if you want more balls, rewind. Edit the Lectopia recording on that one. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is what... so KPS are obviously my company is the lanyard sponsor this week, and on the back of your name tag you'll find there's a couple of QR codes, and the Improve SEO QR code is an opportunity to get a discount on a program called Market Samurai, which is what's on the screen here. Now, it does lots of things, but the main thing that I use it for is to do keyword monitoring. So this screen here is all the keywords that Saxton want to be #1 for, and at the moment, through a combination of Ceph URLs, SEO, metadata, keyword density, site maps. All of these pages currently have a Saxton page coming up as on page 1 for Saxton in position 1. And that's the goal that we want. Yep. Market Samurai. And so that if you scan the QR code or go to that site, it'll redirect you straight to the page to look at that. Obviously, as you get more competitive keywords, it gets harder. And so at the moment, it's telling me that in the last week, comedians has dropped 2 places to 110. And comedians, so we're about to embark on a huge SEO campaign and social media campaign, like I was saying yesterday, for an event in February. Once that's done, comedians will probably get a focus as we lead up to the comedy festival, and then after that we'll move on to whichever one the next topic is. But at the moment, most of our sites, so we've been aiming, well, I think we had, when we started using this, about 70% of the pages we were tracking were in page 1 of Google. We're up to about 85% at the moment. So by monitoring this, because we're monitoring 400 keywords at the moment, it takes a long time to go and physically go and get all that data if you're doing it yourself, whereas this just dumps a report once a week and says you've got new data, and you load this up and you can go and see what's happened. We find that it's reflective enough to be considered reliable. There's some pages that have us perplexed at the moment, where it's not, like, it's within, you'll be within 5 spots on Google. And one of the reasons is that Google archives, Google's caching means that if you go to a Google result on a given day, it will have moved somewhere. Yes, it does. Yeah, it allows you to do that. So we're looking at the Australian market for this. Yeah. So it has only recently got a new feature that does that emailing of the report, and it's still in beta. Amusingly, the company is actually based in Nunawading, so, but has a huge global market. So it retails, I think, for 150, but that link will get you a discount or give you a free trial for 14 days, and then a discount for 97. And if you, I think it gives you 100 keywords at the moment for free that lets you trial it, and so if you've only got a small keyword pool, then that's good. Otherwise, there's subscription plans that will let you monitor as many keywords as you like. And I think at the moment for Saxton, 1,000 keywords is costing us about $50 a month. Actually, I think the price just went up. Yeah. But there's new features coming out all the time. They're constantly working on it. It's constantly evolving, and it's well worth certainly a look at it. And I think that's it. So if anyone wants more information, this will be uploaded shortly to SlideShare, and I'll also put the Prezi link into this from yesterday's presentation, and you can find all that and contact me if you need to. Thanks.